Hi everyone, welcome to Azad Revenge Stories channel. I still remember exactly what I was wearing when Dimitri slammed that report down. This stupid dark green cardigan with the coffee stain on the sleeve that I kept meaning to take to the dry cleaner. My hair was in this messy bun because the shower in my apartment had been ice cold that morning, third time that week, and I didn't have time to wash it. I had been at the office since 5:30 in the morning trying to fix someone else's coding disaster before the client demonstration at 11:00. Dimitri didn't knock, just barged into the tiny conference room where I was troubleshooting, tossed the report on the table like he was dealing cards, and said those words that still echo in my head almost a year later. "Congrats, Arden. You're one of the lucky ones." Lucky. That's the word he used. The fluorescent lights made the paper look blue-white. A spreadsheet with names highlighted in yellow. Names of people I'd worked alongside for years. Friends, people with mortgages and kids and medical bills, people better at their jobs than me, if I'm being honest. Teams getting cut by 30%. Effective immediately, he said, not even looking at me, just scrolling through his phone. "I need you to absorb Treasure's client portfolio, all of Ian's backend maintenance, and take over Saunders' reporting protocols." I just sat there staring at the list looking for Treasure's name. There it was highlighted. Ian too, Saunders, all gone just like that. 3 people I respected. 3 people who taught me everything. That's 3 people's jobs, I finally said. My voice sounded strange, far away. He looked up from his phone then, irritated, like I was being deliberately slow. "Yeah, and you should be grateful. Half the department would kill to be in your position right now." Grateful for what? The privilege of doing unpaid overtime until I collapsed. "Either you handle the transition or you can join them," he said, gesturing at the highlighted names. "Your choice. I need your answer by end of day." And he left just like that. Didn't even close the door behind him. I'm Arden, by the way. I was 29 when this happened. Senior data engineer at what I'll call Lumen Systems, one of those tech companies that calls itself a family in job listings, but treats employees like disposable parts. I'd been there 4 years, which made me practically ancient in startup years. Before I go deep into this, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Because honestly, this story still feels like a fever dream sometimes. And seeing your comments helps me remember I'm not crazy for what I did. So there I was staring at this list of names, people I'd grabbed lunch with, whose kids' birthday parties I'd attended, whose work problems I'd helped solve at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday because that's what teammates do, all gone. And I was supposed to just absorb their workload like they were nothing. I should tell you about Dimitri. He wasn't always like this. When I started at Luminar, he was just another engineer, talented, but not exceptional. We were actually friends, sort of. We'd grab beers after work sometimes, complain about management. He'd tell me about his girlfriend, how they were saving for a house, normal stuff. Then he got promoted first to team lead, then to department head when our previous boss left. And something changed. It was like watching someone put on a mask and then forget they were wearing it. Suddenly, he was all about optimization and resource allocation and doing more with less. Corporate speak for squeezing people until they break. The thing is, I understood the business reality. The company had lost a major client. Investors were nervous. Cuts had to be made. But the way he did it, the complete lack of empathy, that wasn't business. That was something else. I sat in that conference room for I don't know how long, 10 minutes, an hour. The client demo came and went. I sent an email postponing it, citing technical complications. No one questioned it. I just kept staring at those highlighted names, feeling this pressure building in my chest. I finally left the conference room around 2:00 p.m. The office was different. Empty desks, people talking in whispers. Someone was crying in the bathroom. I could hear it through the thin walls of my cubicle. A few people looked at me as I walked by, their eyes a mixture of sympathy and relief. They knew who had been cut. They knew who had been saved. I tried to focus on work that afternoon, but my mind kept drifting. I thought about Treasure, who'd stayed late countless nights helping me understand the client, management system. Then when I first started, Sonia, who brought homemade tamales to the office every Christmas, who had a son with special needs she was putting through private school, Ian, who was quiet and brilliant and once fixed a critical server issue from his phone while at his sister's wedding, all gone, and here I was expected to somehow do all their jobs plus mine. At around 4:30, Dimitri sent me a message. Need your answer by 5. There was no greeting, no context, no explanation, just a deadline. I typed and deleted about 20 responses. Everything from I quit to I'll do it to several creative combinations of words. I can't say on you chew, but none of them felt right. Finally, I walked to his office. He was on a call, but waved me in anyway, still talking about quarterly projections like this was just another Thursday. When he hung up, he didn't even look at me, just said, "So what's it going to be?" I was exhausted. I'd been running on caffeine and stress for weeks. My apartment was a mess. I couldn't remember the last time I'd called my mom. The idea of taking on 3 more people's work made me physically ill. "I need the weekend," I said quietly, "to figure out how to make this work." He looked annoyed, but nodded. "Fine, but I need a transition plan on my desk Monday morning, 9:00 a.m. sharp." I nodded and left. As I was walking out, he called after me, "And Arden, don't disappoint me. You're not irreplaceable." That was the moment right there. Something inside me just snapped. You know that feeling when you've been holding yourself together for so long that you forget what it feels like to just be whole. That was me. I'd been contorting myself into whatever shape Luminer needed for 4 years. Canceling vacations for deadline crunches. Missing my cousins waiting for a product launch. Answering emails at 3:00 a.m. because our offshore team had questions. And for what? So Dimitri could tell me I wasn't irreplaceable. I walked to my car in a daze. It was raining. Of course it was raining. And I'd forgotten my umbrella. By the time I got to the parking garage, my cardigan was soaked through and my mascara was running down my face. I sat in my car for a long time, not even turning it on, just listening to the rain on the roof and feeling this strange calm settle over me. I wasn't going to do this anymore. But I wasn't just going to quit either. That would be too easy, too predictable. No, I was going to show Dimitri exactly what irreplaceable looked like. I drove home in a kind of trance, this plan forming in my mind. It wasn't even really a plan at first, more like a feeling, a certainty. By the time I pulled into my apartment complex, though, it had crystallized into something clear and sharp and perfect. My roommate V was home when I walked in, sitting on our second-hand couch with her laptop, working on her dissertation. She took one look at me soaking wet, mascara-streaked, this weird smile on my face, and said, "Oh, what happened?" So I told her all of it. The layoffs, the impossible workload, Dimitri's smug face telling me I wasn't irreplaceable. When I finished, she closed her laptop and just stared at me. "So what are you going to do?" I laughed. This strange, unfamiliar laugh that sounded nothing like me. "I'm going to make him regret ever saying those words to me." "How?" she asked. And that's when I really laid it out. The whole plan, it came tumbling out of me fully formed, like it had been sitting there all along, just waiting for the right moment. As I talked, V's expression changed from concern to shock to this slow, spreading smile. When I finished, she said, "That's either the most brilliant or the most insane thing I've ever heard. Maybe it's both." I said, "You could lose everything," she warned. I looked around our tiny apartment at the IKEA furniture and the leak stain on the ceiling and the stack of past due notices on the counter. What exactly would I be losing? She didn't have an answer for that. I spent the whole weekend preparing. I didn't sleep much. I don't think I ate anything except microwave ramen and those little clementine oranges V keeps in the fridge. I was possessed, focused in a way I hadn't been in years. By Sunday night, everything was ready. I had 2 envelopes in my bag, both sealed. I ironed my best blouse, this deep blue one that always made me feel powerful. I'd even gone to get a proper coffee to replace the stained cardigan. Monday morning, I got to the office at 8:30. The place was hushed, still reeling from Friday's bloodbath. Empty desks everywhere. Those who remained were hunched over their keyboards, trying to look busy, trying to look valuable, trying to look irreplaceable. I walked straight to Dimitri's office. He wasn't there yet. He never arrived before 9. Another one of those little privileges he'd claimed with his promotion. I left one of the envelopes on his chair where he couldn't miss it. Then I went to my desk and waited. At 9:05, I heard him arrive, heard him talking loudly on his phone as he walked to his office. Something about quarterly projections again. There was a pause in the conversation. He must have seen the envelope. At 9:07, he burst out of his office, his face flushed and his eyes wild, searching for me. When he spotted me at my desk, calmly sipping my coffee, he stormed over. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, waving the paper from the envelope. Everyone in the open office looked up. "This was exactly what I wanted." That I said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Is my assessment of the workload you assigned me on Friday." He leaned in, lowering his voice. "This says it would take 3 full-time employees to handle it. That's why we had 3 people doing it before." "Exactly," I said, still projecting my voice. "It's physically impossible for one person to do all of it, no matter how efficiently they work." "Lower your voice," he hissed. I stood up instead. "Might as well give everyone a good view. You asked me for a transition plan," I said. "That's my professional assessment. The work you assigned requires 3 full-time employees. If you disagree, I welcome your detailed analysis explaining how one person can simultaneously manage 27 client accounts, maintain 6 legacy systems, and produce daily reports that take on average 4 hours each to compile." His face was getting redder. People were openly staring now. Some had even pulled out their phones. I wondered if I was about to become a viral TikTok. "My office now," he growled. I picked up my bag with the second envelope inside and followed him. He slammed the door behind us. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" "My job," I said simply. "You asked me to figure out how to make this work. I'm telling you it doesn't work. If you can't handle it." "No one can handle it," I interrupted. "That's the point. You're not making cuts to improve efficiency. You're making cuts because you promised the board you could deliver the same results with fewer resources, and now you're trying to force us to make your bad math work." He looked like I'd slapped him because I was right, and he knew it. "You have no idea what pressures I'm under," he started. "Actually, I do," I said, "because unlike you, I still talk to people in this company. I know about the board's ultimatum. I know about the acquisition talks falling through. I know you were told to cut headcount by 20%, and you pushed it to 30% to impress them." His eyes widened slightly. I'd surprised him. "Good. How did you people talk to me, Dimitri?" "They always have. I'm the one who listens when they're worried about their jobs or stressed about deadlines. I'm the one who stays late to help them fix problems. Not because it's my job, but because that's what teammates do for each other." He scoffed. "And what has all that listening gotten you? You're still just a senior engineer. I'm your boss." "For now," I said quietly. That's when I reached into my bag and pulled out the second envelope. I handed him the second envelope. Unlike the first one, which had just his name scrolled across it, this one had Board of Directors Luminous Systems typed neatly on the front. "What is this?" he asked, turning it over in his hands. "Open it." He hesitated, then tore it open. Inside was a letter, 3 pages, single-spaced. I'd spent most of Saturday writing it, revising it, making sure every word was perfect. I watched his face as he read, watched the color drain from it paragraph by paragraph, because what I'd written wasn't a resignation letter. It was much, much worse. It was a comprehensive analysis of every mistake Dimitri had made since becoming department head. Every corner he'd cut, every project deadline he'd missed and covered up, every client complaint he'd buried, all meticulously documented with dates, screenshots, and witness accounts, all gathered over months without him realizing. See, the thing about being the person everyone talks to is that you hear everything. And I mean everything. The client who threatened to leave after Dimitri promised features we couldn't deliver. The security vulnerability he decided was low priority even though it exposed user data. The junior developer he blamed for his own coding error who quit in tears. I'd kept notes on all of it. Not because I planned to use them someday. I'm not that calculating. I kept them because documenting things was how I made sense of the increasingly toxic environment. It was my therapy, my way of reminding myself I wasn't crazy. But now those notes were a weapon. When he got to the last page, he looked up, his face ashen. "You can't send this to the board." "I already did," I said calmly. "At 8:45 this morning. They should be reading it right about now." He collapsed into his chair, the letter falling from his hands. "Why would you do this?" That's when I placed my actual resignation letter on his desk. "Because I quit." His eyes darted between the resignation letter and me. "You what?" "I quit," I repeated. "Effective immediately. But don't worry. I've documented all of my processes. I've created training materials. I've even written handover notes for whoever takes over my projects. Unlike you, I don't leave people hanging. You can't just I can I am." I took a deep breath. "Oh, and I should mention that Tricia, Ian, and Sonia have all accepted positions at Helix Tech. I referred them last month when I heard rumors about the layoffs. They start next week." His jaw literally dropped. Helix was our biggest competitor. "But here's the real kicker, Dimitri," I continued, feeling this strange, almost euphoric calm. "I'd accepted a position there too, as department director." I wish I could adequately describe a look on his face. It was like watching someone solve a complex equation in real time, connecting dots, realizing implications, calculating losses. "You're going to poach our clients," he said finally. I shrugged. "Some will follow us." "Sure. Clients tend to go where the people they trust are, but that's business, right? Resource allocation optimization." He stood up suddenly, knocking his chair back. "This is corporate espionage. I'll sue you. I'll sue all of you." I actually laughed. "No, you won't. Because that would mean explaining to the board why your entire senior engineering team left for a competitor. It would mean discovery where all your mistakes would become legal record. It would mean depositions from every employee who's ever felt mistreated under your leadership." I leaned forward. "Do you really want to go down that road?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. "I thought not," I said, standing up. "Now I've got a meeting with HR to process my exit. If you'll excuse me." I was almost to the door when he spoke again, his voice strange and small. "I thought we were friends once." I turned back. He looked different somehow. Smaller, younger, almost like the Dimitri I'd known before the promotions changed him. "We were," I said quietly. "That's what makes this so disappointing." I walked out of his office, past the curious stares of my soon-to-be former colleagues, straight to HR. The exit interview was brief. I'd already turned in my laptop badge and company credit card. I had nothing left to surrender. As I was leaving the building for the last time, my phone buzzed with a text from Tricia. "Did you do it?" I texted back a simple yes. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, "Polly, you actually did it. Drinks tonight. Bring tea." I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years, and typed, "Absolutely." Now, I'd love to tell you that what happened next was some cinematic justice, that Dimitri was fired on the spot, that the board apologized to everyone who'd been laid off, that Lumina imploded while Helix thrived. Reality is messier than that. Dimitri wasn't fired, at least not immediately. The board issued a statement about reviewing management practices and launched an investigation. But 3 months later, his LinkedIn quietly changed to seeking new opportunities. I heard through the grapevine that he'd been given the choice to resign or be terminated. He chose the former. Not all the clients followed us to Helix. Some did, the ones who'd worked directly with me, Tricia, Ian, or Sonia, but others stayed with Lumina out of inertia or contract obligations. Business is rarely as dramatic as revenge fantasies would have you believe. As for me, my new role at Helix wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Being a department director meant longer hours, more stress, and tough decisions of my own. There were days I questioned if I'd made the right choice, if I'd become what I hated. But there was one crucial difference: respect. I built my team on it. We worked hard but sustainably. When someone was overwhelmed, we redistributed the load. When mistakes happened, we fixed them together instead of looking for someone to blame. We celebrated wins collectively and weathered losses the same way. 6 months after I left, Luminar had another round of layoffs, 40% this time. A year later, they were acquired by a larger firm and essentially gutted. Most of the people I'd known there scattered to other companies. Some reached out to me for referrals, some didn't. Life went on. V finished her dissertation and moved to Montreal for a postdoc position. We still FaceTime every Sunday. I finally bought a condo. Nothing fancy, but the shower always has hot water and there are no ceiling stains. I adopted a cat named Professor who judges me silently when I work late. I ran into Dmitri once, about 18 months after everything went down at a coffee shop near the old Lumina office. He was in line ahead of me, and for a second I thought about slipping out before he saw me, but then he turned around, coffee in hand, and there we were. He looked different, tired, beard a little scruffier, but when he saw me something shifted in his expression. Not anger or resentment, but something more complicated. "Arden," he said, nodding slightly. "Dmitri," I replied. An awkward pause. Then I heard Helix is doing well. "It is," I said. "We just closed Series C funding." He nodded again. "Good. That's good." Another pause. The barrister called my name for my order. As I reached for my coffee, Dmitri said, "You know, I think about that day a lot." I looked at him, really looked at him. "So do I." "I was wrong," he said simply, "about a lot of things." I wasn't expecting that. An apology from Dmitri was like seeing a unicorn in the wild. Theoretically possible, but statistically improbable. "Yes," I agreed. "You're—" He almost smiled at that. Still direct as ever. "Some things don't change." He shifted his weight, clutching his coffee cup a little too tightly. "I'm consulting now, helping startups avoid the mistakes I made." That's surprisingly self-aware. Getting publicly humbled will do that to a person. There was no bitterness in his voice, just statement of fact. I nodded, unsure what else to say. We'd run out of small talk, but it felt like something important was hanging in the air, unresolved. Finally he said, "I should go." "It was good to see you, Arden." "You too," I said, and was surprised to realize I meant it. As he turned to leave, I called after him. "Dmitri," he looked back. "I hope you find what you're looking for." A small, genuine smile this time. "I think I'm getting there." And then he was gone. I stood there for a moment, coffee cooling in my hand, feeling strangely unsettled. Not in a bad way, more like when you finally put down a heavy backpack you've been carrying for miles. Relief mixed with the phantom sensation of weight. Because here's the truth, I didn't expect. Revenge doesn't feel how you think it will. In movies, it's this triumphant, cathartic moment where everything is resolved and justice is served and the credits roll while you walk away in slow motion. Real revenge is messier. It changes you. Even when you're right, especially when you're right, there's this hollow space afterward where all that anger and purpose used to be. You have to fill it with something else. Or you just become another version of the person who wronged you. I'm still figuring out what to fill it with. Some days it's mentoring junior engineers. Some days it's building something new and exciting at Helix. Some days it's just sitting on my balcony with Professor watching the sunset, remembering to breathe. I don't regret what I did. Not for a second. Dmitri needed to face consequences. The team deserved better. I deserved better. But I've learned that the best revenge isn't about destruction. It's about creation. Building something better from the ashes of what was burned down. So that's my story. Not a neat little moral lesson. Not a triumphant anthem of girl boss energy. Just life. Messy, complicated, ongoing. If you've stuck with me this long, thank you. Really, it feels good to finally tell this story, to put it out into the world and let it be what it is. If anything in this resonated with you, if you're in a toxic workplace, if you're being asked to do the impossible, if you're wondering if you're crazy for feeling undervalued, you're not alone. You're never alone. Like this video if it spoke to you. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this. I've got plenty. Believe me. And leave a comment telling me about a time you stood up for yourself or didn't but wish you had. No judgment here. We are all just trying to figure it out as we go. Until next time, this is Arden reminding you that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is no, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away. I invite you to subscribe to the Azad Revenge Stories channel, like this video, and support me further by hitting the hype button so the story in this video can be heard by many more people. Thanks to all.